Coming up to retirement, things are still happening with property. Whether you want to downsize, you want to look at equity release options, or even transfer the property into another family member's name, there's plenty that we can help you with, and we can help you with the whole process.
There's so many different rules and regulations, so we really keep a close knit with our private client department to make sure that we're adhering to everything regarding the sale of a property and transferring it into another person's name.
People can find themselves being accidental landlords. Their parents who own property have died, and with them comes the tenants who are currently living in that property. These landlords may well need some advice on what their rights are to manage that tenancy, what they have to do, what they can do to end that tenancy, and we can help with that.
Sometimes, sadly, there are situations where the grandparents feel left out or slightly ostracised because of difficulties perhaps in the marriage of their children. And sometimes grandparents can be overlooked, and of course they play a very important part for the children. And so we can assist them with that. We can help to communicate sometimes with the parents of the children, or we can advise grandparents what their rights are in relation to having contact with their grandchildren, and assist them with any court applications that might be necessary if we can't resolve matters.
If you're a grandparent and you apply to the court for contact, you have to understand the family dynamics here.
Judges are very keen on children having healthy relationships with everybody in their family. The judges know that mum and dad have a very important role to play, as well as grandparents, as well as aunties and uncles.
When you get to your 60s, one always hopes that you thought about not what happens in your will, but supposing you fall ill or for some reason are incapacitated earlier on. Now, with powers of attorney, the law changed back in 2007, and although any power of attorney which you signed back then may still be valid, there are probably a number of reasons why you might want to revisit it again. First of all, your attorneys may not be around. They may have been chosen at a time when you were living in a totally different place. They may have died. So you need to choose attorneys and look at those who will be able to look after your affairs now or in the reasonably near future. If you are in need of using that power of attorney, very often it'll be in a question of needing to sell the house. So you need the necessary power not only to be able to sell the house, but also to manage the proceeds of sale of that house. When it comes to your will, if you've got a spouse, everything is straightforward. You just leave it to the spouse. You may not necessarily just leave it to the spouse. You may leave it in trust in certain circumstances. Now, trusts come in a number of different forms. You might want to leave them an interest in a trust, say half the estate in a trust. So you might allow them to have a life interest, which means that during their lifetimes they're entitled to the income, but not the capital. What I would say is that you need to bear in mind the expense of running these trusts. There are compliance issues you need to bear in mind. Trust registration service now requires most trusts to be registered. There is the tax element. So they are certainly a useful tool for protection, but needs to be used carefully.